What they do, what it is, this is Orion aka Brass Balls, another installment of Deep Dive Tape Stash. However, I'm gonna flip the script on y'all today and we're gonna do a deep dive vinyl stash. I pulled out this record from the collection and I'm gonna take a little quick plunge into this gem of a record that I got in front of you. However, before I do that, please like, comment, reshare, repost, subscribe to the YouTube channel Orion Hip Hop, where you can peep previous episodes of Deep Dive Tape Stash, Deep Dive Top 5, plenty of obscure demos that you may have never heard, and dope ass music from yours truly, Orion aka Brass Balls. Get your scuba gear together. Let's take this dive into Killah Priest. This is the single off of his first album, Heavy Mental. The single is called One Step. This really set off the album of Heavy Mental, but before we even get into that, we must acknowledge the fact that a lot of us came to know about Killah Priest because of GZA's album Liquid Swords. The bonus track on that album is Bible, and even as a jit, when I started listening to that album, Bible just grabbed me so hard, bro, and I was just like, yo, hold up, is this GZA? Because this guy sounds completely different than GZA. You know, of course, upon further investigations into it, you realize that that was not GZA on Bible, that is Killah Priest. And Killah Priest also had a notable feature on that album with his verse off of Fourth Chamber, which had a video and everything. It was a single off Liquid Swords. So the Liquid Swords album was the world's introduction into Killah Priest. I'm sure if you were a big Wu head and you were an underground hip hop head, Sons of Man was already on your radar and everything. But for the most part, Liquid Swords is what really put him on the map. And even with this album, Heavy Mental, he was signed to the same label, which is Geffen Records, that had put out Liquid Swords. So I would imagine that him being on Liquid Swords kind of helped facilitate that deal that he had with Geffen Records and putting out this amazing album of Heavy Mental. I bought this record, I want to say more than 13 years ago, possibly, because I was at Technique Records, or either Technique Records or Sweat Records in Miami, and this was in the bin. I found it and got really excited about this record, and I'm gonna break down as to why I was so excited about finding this record. I had Heavy Mental on CD when it first came out. I remember purchasing it at Circuit City, and I love that album. That album is one of the best Wu affiliate albums ever. Killah Priest is one of them MCs from out of the Wu-Tang camp that you might as well consider Wu-Tang Clan core members, bro, because he is that significant in the Wu-Tang sound. As far as this single is concerned, it did have a video. It had Tekitha on the hook. Tekitha was the songstress of Wu-Tang, and I remember Big Git being on Drink Champs discussing whether or not this was around the time that a lot of people were doing the verses, and it was brought to his attention that like Dungeon Family and Wu-Tang would be a good verses, and his only thing was that Wu-Tang doesn't have a songbird. While they had CeeLo and they had Andre 3000, Wu-Tang didn't have that. But I would beg to differ. Tekitha was that in Wu-Tang. She was the songbird of Wu-Tang. I think one of the things that we missed out on with that era of Wu-Tang in the 90s to the late 90s, RZA being on the streak that he was at with his production. Of course, we should have got that Inspector Deck album completely produced by RZA, but the flood unfortunately happened. But it would have been dope to see an album completely produced by RZA with Tekitha in the forefront and a bunch of Wu-Tang members featured on a bunch of tracks. I wish that would have came into fruition, but it is what it is. This song, however, One Step, I feel continues what Killah Priest laid out and what he gave us on the Bible. Bible, for those that don't know, is the bonus track that I mentioned that was on Liquid Swords, basic instructions before leaving Earth. What he touched on and the jewels he dropped on that song, he continued with this song, One Step, One Breath, and finessed it fantastically well. The beat, awesome, incredible production from True Master, who was one of the Wu elements, one of the guys responsible for that 90s Wu-Tang sound that we all love and cherish to this day. Later on in 2001, 2002, I remember Dialated Peoples came out using the same sample that was used on this track, and I believe Disturbing the Peace also released a song using the same sample. But in my opinion, nobody did it better than True Master. Nobody did it better than Killah Priest on this track. Before I even go any further, I want to just put this out there that this Friday, August 29th, Killah Priest will be performing at Unseen Creatures in Miami. I myself will be opening up for Killah Priest. It's an honor to be a part of this show. Make sure you peep the flyer here on my cast that I'm putting up, but also you can peep it on previous posts that I have up, and make sure you cop a ticket if you're in the Miami area. Continuing on to this record, I'm gonna say that the B-side is also great. The B-side has the track Fake MCs, and this was dope for him to do, and I can see why he did this, because on the A-side he's giving you the jewels that we already are expecting from Killah Priest because of songs like Bible, but then on the B-side he's giving you more of that MC flavor, talking more about whack MCs and more of some like lyrical jousting. The production was done by Fourth Disciple, another Wu element, another person responsible for that Wu-Tang sound we all love and cherish. And I love this beat. The laid back flow that Killah Priest laid on it was great. The upright bass sample in it, piano that blends so well with it. It's fantastic. Now, Heavy Mental may have not been the commercial success that other Wu solo albums were, but Heavy Mental is very much a cult classic. I don't know what the numbers are for this album, how much it sold units wise, but that doesn't even matter to me. I think this is one of the classic albums to come out of the Wu camp. You got production from Razah all over it. You got production from True Master, Fourth Disciple. So it's great, man. And the way everything flows is fantastic. In fact, Blessed Are Those is one of the standout tracks on the album. And it was actually featured in the Source magazine as a hip-hop quotable, his verse from Blessed Are Those. And this is back in the era where the hip-hop quotable meant a lot to have in the Source. One of my favorite tracks from the album is From Then Till Now. Another one is Tai Chi, which kind of introduced everybody to what the Sons of Man project would come out like and kind of sound like. The Professional, Science Projects. And speaking of which, The Professional was actually produced by John the Baptist. A lot of people might not know, but John the Baptist is somewhat related to Jizza, I believe. Some of my homies that know him kind of like dropped the knowledge on me. Really can't remember 100%. Shout out to Magnum O, Tariq, and my dog Black Snow. But anyways, The Professional was produced by John the Baptist, and he's actually a North Miami cat, or lived in North Miami for quite some time, hence why he knows a lot of my homies. So shout out to John the Baptist for doing that, because that's a dope ass track, dope ass way to end that Heavy Mental album. It's the last track on that album. Go peep the Heavy Mental if you've been sleeping all these years. I said earlier I was really excited when I copped this record, because I was under the impression that it would have two tracks that were not featured on the Heavy Mental album, and that is a song called Moanin featuring Killa Sin from Killah Army, produced by Fourth Disciple, and another track called Street Opera, produced by Fourth Disciple. Both of these tracks weren't on Heavy Mental, and I have no idea why. Perhaps because the album was already flooded with so many tracks. I think it had like 19 or 20 tracks, so it just would have been way too many tracks. But damn, man, I wish it would have been on it, along with another track called Mind as a Weapon. But anyways, it wasn't on this record, unfortunately. This record is actually like maybe the third pressing that got released. And so when I copped the album, I didn't even check the back. You know, sometimes you're digging and you find something and you get too excited, and that's what happened to me. And unfortunately, I got the third pressing that does not have Moanin and Street Opera, but those tracks are fire, and you gotta go check them out. And if you don't know or too lazy, don't worry, your boy Orion got you. Check out the description box. I'm gonna drop a link in the YouTube description box so that you can just click on there and hear them tracks for yourself if you haven't already heard them. Killah Priest always has been doing his thing, and it very prolific. We're talking about an artist that has anywhere from 33 to 35 solo albums released under his belt. That's not even including the albums he dropped with Sons of Man, or the album that he dropped with Black Market Militia, which is a motherfucking classic, and you should be fucking peeping if you're a hip-hop fan, a true hip-hop fan. I got the chance to meet Killah Priest back in the days thanks to the homie Dynaz. Shout out to Dynaz. He had a studio session at the old Miami Beat Wave studio in Cutler Ridge or Kendall, Miami, around on there. Yeah, man, it was an album Dynams was putting together, and he actually had Killah Priest in the studio. I was lucky enough to be invited to that studio session, and I got to chop it up with Killah Priest. And they say don't meet your idols. I'm glad I met Killah Priest because he was a stand-up dude, and I'm very much looking forward to opening up for Killah Priest this weekend, Friday, August 29th, Unseen Creatures. Make sure you come out. It's not a lot that we asking for at the door. We're talking about a $10 ticket if you get it online, $15 if you happen to just come and walk in that day. So don't be a slouch, don't sleep. Witness real hip-hop while you can, while it's still here. Take that one step closer to some real hip-hop shit this Friday. That said, my name is Orion, aka Brass Balls. Thank you for tuning in. Peace.